What a what a magnificent piece of engineering this monstrosity is. I went on and on and on about it in the unboxing. Not this one, an earlier one. Uh, what a marvel! Structural engineering, material engineering, social engineering. Because somebody looked at what a consumer wanted and decided, hey, this looks neat. Let's give the people what they want. So a lot of effort went into this, and I'm definitely privileged to have one of these. However, despite the usual content that I produce on my videos, I was reminded this morning that what goes into this work of art, this work of fiction, can just as easily be perverted in reality. You'll see in the following unboxing video that I was riding quite a bit of an emotional high for the thing that I unboxed yesterday. At the time I was recording it, I forgot that something significant had happened halfway across the world. A thing walked into an Islamic mosque in New Zealand and killed 50 people. The count is currently up to 50 people. And injured over 100 others. They were all celebrating love, life, and this wonderful place that Allah has created for them. Something disagreed with that and literally went in guns blazing. This piece of inhumane filth was caught alive and bragged to investigators and those that captured him that it was inspired by similar acts of domestic terrorism within the United States of America, which is being actively encouraged by the top leaders in the United States of America right now. Despite the topic of content that I usually cover, I make a distinction. There is a very broad line between fiction, fictional violence, and reality. At this point, 3 days ago, we were reminded of how brutal and merciless reality can be. I have been a victim of schoolyard bullying. I have been a victim of online bullying. Not enough to send me to a hospital, not enough to have me go to the police, but I have witnessed it. I have also seen death with my own eyes. Fortunately, none of those whom I've lost were taken by violence, but I have witnessed death. It is most unpleasant. So in that regard, I empathize with the families of the victims in New Zealand. Additionally, I want to point out that again, despite the topic of conversation here, I do not advocate for violence based on race, religion, sexual orientation, or any of those other prejudices that exist out there. I am very fortunate not only to live in a first world country, but to live in a country where I don't have to worry about economic security, where I don't have to worry about the cleanliness of my food, about the next glass of water, that I even have glass to use contain water. I don't have to worry about getting rained on or getting snowed on. I don't have to worry about being cold in winter. I don't have to worry about being warm in summer. I am a very, very privileged individual. I understand that very, very well. In some regards, yes, that also makes me ignorant. And it also makes me innocent. But regardless of what my life has been like and how privileged an individual I am, I want the people, I want the families of the victims of that mosque attack, that terrorist attack, to know that I stand with you. We may not speak the same language. We may not necessarily believe the same things. But that kind of brutal, inhumane act is completely and totally unacceptable. Violence is not the answer. You disagree with somebody, fine. Talk to their face. Yell if you have to, but talk. Talk is always the best answer. Violence is not. To the suspect, if convicted, if confirmed, may you rot in all the hells that exist. You selfish, selfish thing. To the families of the victims, you have my empathy and my support. And to the victims who are no longer with us, may you find the peace in death that you could not in life. So, the first toy reviews of Kishiryu Sentai Ryu Soldier, I almost said Kyoryuger, which would be totally wrong apparently, Ryu Soldier, have just popped up online. The first ones I've seen. And I've seen the Henshin device, and I've seen the sword, and I've seen the Kishiryu. And no. 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 Mm-mm. Kishiryu, maybe. But it did pretty much everything that I was anticipating. It's just parts for me except for the shoulders and except for the hips. Those are the only things that do not physically detach, and the waist. There's a diagonal waist swivel in there, and that's it. But you could take the little blocks off of here, you can attach them to here, you can take the blocks from here, you can attach them up here, you can take the chest off, you could stick it on here, and that's not what I wanted. That's no. Let me rephrase that. That's not what I want out of Super Sentai. That's not what I signed up for in 1993 when I saw the Tyrannosaurus Dinozord. That's no, no. I'm not. Unless I get a sampler. No, the Henshi device is huge, and that's just from snout to the back of the head. It's like that. It's like the size of my hand, my open palm hand. What the hell? Why does it need to be that big? And oh, by the way, it's really difficult to turn your wrist around and then plug something in this way and then flip the thing around. You know what really disappointed me when I saw that wrist changer? Was it Ryusol buckler or whatever it is? Maybe it's Ryusol brace or whatever it is. What disappoints me is the part that flips around can flip around 360 degrees. I thought it was just, it would flip around, 270, and then you'd be forced to put it back the other way. But no, you can actually take it. You don't even need to flip it all the way around to get the thing to go from under the jaw to over the eyes. You don't even have to. You could just slide it upwards a little. It'll just go click, and that's it. So color me disappointed there. It's a nice idea, but I feel like I've seen this before a couple of times. So yeah, they're doing Ranger keys again, and okay, whatever. And mold details are nice, and the sword is you hold it down, and I was iffy on the role play on the Henshin device and on the sword. I was iffy on those. Like, I'm not really feeling it. Probably not, but I'll wait for reviews. I'll wait to see the full functionality of the things. Um, and the same thing with Kishiryu. Now, I have not seen Kishiryu 3 nights, but it's just more parts forming. Yeah, ironically, it's the exact opposite. I can't even say block forming because they're not blocks anymore. It's not Juoger. It's not that. It's parts forming. So it's Go Buster all over again. So like maybe one part moves on it, but you still have to take it off and stick it somewhere else. That's never been something I've been satisfied with. I could do that with Legos because it's Lego, because it's not, take it off of here and magically it transfers over here. And you could deal with, or I can live with, a part coming off of here and shifting out of here if it's like an ultimate combined form. The ultimate Daijujin, MMPR Season 1 Ultrazord. There's one, two, three, four. Is that right? One on the chest, two, three, four, and then five. Yeah, there's five parts. The parts swap across the whole thing. And then you've got Dragon Caesar comes down on the shoulders, but that's not a part swap. That's just combining, whatever, and that's just fine. But I knew it was going to be parts swarming, but I just needed to see detail. And yeah, it's got mold detail, and no doubt they Lego snap on there just fine, and that's all well and good. But the arms don't even transform. It's just the arms are already like this, and all you're doing is you just fold them down, and that's it. The legs, like the one thing I don't understand about the transformation is you have to plug in the dino feet, the gray talons or whatever it is, tiramigo. Tiramigo! You plug in the feet. For whatever reason, they can swivel side to side. I'm not entirely certain why, but there's a good bet it's either part of a transformation or they're going to have to come off at some point. Hey, you're going to have to take the claws off and stick them somewhere else. What are the possibilities of that happening in the next 9 months? So, and it's a it's a naval cruiser when it's in Tiramigo form. It's just a bunch of turrets and stuff sitting on the top, and there's a bunch of cannon barrels. Like, well, if there's a ton of cannon barrels on the thing, what do you need any other upgrade for? Why even bother transforming it? You can just sit back and roar, and then alpha strike everything. That's pretty much all the Tiramigo is. And then for the Triceratops and the Ankylosaurus, is that right? Yeah, the Ankylosaurus, the pink Ankylosaurus. Um, the only transformation is the head, the front half of the body, the back half of the body, and maybe the tail. It's part forming, which I'm not a parts former fan. I'm really not. Lego is one thing because those are not parts formers. That's a building block set. Okay, the whole point of it is to make whatever you want to out of it. That's fine. Let me think. Well, I've got Go Say Great, and then I can make Hyper Go Say Great. But that's, I said in that video it's not quite parts forming. It's more block forming than it is parts forming. Disconnecting headers notwithstanding, that I don't consider that parts forming. It's not. It's part of the gimmick, but that's not really parts forming because they always go to the same places. So I discredit those as being parts formers. So um, I'm trying to think of legitimate parts formers. Well, I've got RID Ultra Magnus. But on the other hand, Ultra Magnus can transform. There's stuff you have to move it down here, and you flip these things up. So while there is parts forming involved, most of the parts forming involving that Ultra Magnus, I'm not thinking I'm not going to do it. Yes, I am. This guy has a broken door, by the way, and a lot of dust. Um, and this is the original one, by the way. This is not the reissue from 2017, which had a lot of quality control issues with it. So this is the original one from 90, 98, 99 ish. Um, or was that early 2000s? Suddenly I don't remember. No, it would have been earlier than that. Whenever it was. In any event, this has parts forming involved, but also a large portion of that is due to combining with Optimus Prime, which I also have. So I don't mind parts forming so long as other interesting things are happening to it. Yeah, the legs come off of here, but there's also like 7 or 8 steps involved on each of those components. Then it's interesting, and I've got dust in my eye because I'm talking on it, and then it's got this big nonsensical gun sitting up on the top here. And Maxilla, aren't you so jealous that I have this and you don't? and the sounds work too. So, but I remove the batteries because old and don't use it that often. So that's not to say I haven't dealt with parts formers, and that's not that that isn't a parts former. And I've got G1 Computron, and I've got G1 reissue Piranacon. Yeah, I think it's Piranacon. I've got those. So, but again, combiner gibble. That's a different thing. Those are just things that sticking out. And there was G1. So whatever. And then I've got Combiner Wars, Computron, and Lio Kaiser. So, so I do have a couple of parts formers, but it's mostly combiner kibble, which is a different thing from just parts forming in general. It's like combiner kibble parts. That's one thing, but let's see. Am I unmuted? Good, I am. Yes. So, and the other one, the Green Tiger. I can't think of what it is from Ryu Soldier. Um, and I haven't even seen episode one. Episode one debuted last weekend. Yeah, it debuted last weekend. So I haven't even seen the show. I'm not making commentary on the show itself. I'm making commentary on the toys. So parts warming is not my thing. I've got a. I keep threatening to bring it up one of these days. I've got three mecha from a 1990s anime series, Great of the Sun Fibered. Or is it Yusha? Tayu no Yusha Fibud is what that one is. Um, I've got those, and there is parts. There's a bit of parts remaining involved, but the villain Dryas, which I don't know if that actually if that's English or what, I don't know. But anyways, Dryas, which I've had since 1990 is when I got it. That has a lot of parts forming involved, but that's okay because again, each of those parts has some transforming aspect to it, and there's not a lot of parts. There's let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six, and then the two weapons. Yeah, so that's acceptable. That's completely acceptable to me. And then I've got his two mates. So unfortunately, I don't have the other two mates. God damn it. But yeah. So Ryu Soldier, I was hesitant when I first saw it. Aside from the fact that I was massively disappointed about dragons not being part of it. I mean, you've got knights, but you've got medieval knights, but you don't have dragons. It was right there, Banditplex Toy. It was right there, and you just blew it. You wasted your opportunity. You're really telling me that Japanese kids aren't into dragons? Really? I can tell you this much: the American kids would be. Just saying. And by the way, for the record, no, I have not seen Power Rangers Beast Morphers yet because unfortunately, the satellite service that my parents have, we don't get Nickelodeon. So it's weird. I can set up a timer and I can find it in the listings, but for whatever reason, it's not recording any of them. The third episode came out today, so it's not recording any of them for whatever reason. So I'm gonna have to find an online source. If any of you can recommend an online source, a reliable online source for watching Power Rangers Beast Morphers, let me know in the comments, please, because I mean it's the first series of the Hasbro era, so I would like to see what's happening. And I know barely anything about Go Busters, so actually my opinion is not going to be clouded by Japanese version versus U.S. version. So I'd like to give it its fair shot. I gave Dino Charge its fair shot. I actually watched the whole first season and okay, yeah, it was respectable. The production quality was good. The writing wasn't half bad. The acting was appropriate. The directing and the editing was fine. Um, so I'd like to do the same thing for. Why do I want to say Dino Charge and Ninja Steel, which is totally wrong? Um, uh, uh, Beast Morphers, right? I would like to see Beast Morphers. So if somebody can send me an online link for Beast Morphers, I would appreciate that. So speaking of parts formers and my intense dislike for them, or rather my intense disregard and uncaringness for them, I've been sitting on this package since Thursday, June 7th, 2018. It's been sitting in my room for 9 months. I wrote this down because I've actually got another box of equivalent size sitting here. sitting over there. So I actually marked it up so I could remember which one was which. Um, it was just a matter of the timing. You lazy sumbitch, Ava. What exactly do you need to worry about timing? Well, I need to worry about shelf space. So that's also a factor. I've cleared out the what were they called? Not special series. The studio series Bayformers. They're all out of here, and the Lupin Pat Kaiser is off on a shelf over there now. So I had to make some room for this guy on the shelf here, so just so I can, or on the desk here, so I can review it. But I'm going to do something unusual here. Before I show you guys what's in the box, I want you to pause the video and take a look at the two links that I've got down in the description below, and I'll have them permanently marked. So go ahead, take a moment, check out the links below, and then when you're done watching both of those videos in the order that they're listed, I'll have it listed video number 1, video number 2. So when you see those two videos, go ahead and unpause this video and then continue on. So I'll give you a moment to look for that. I lost the unboxing video. I recorded the unboxing on, what was it, Saturday? Was it Saturday the 16th? And then I did the homage to the victims of the New Zealand mosque attack. I did that on Sunday after I'd come home from church. And I looked at, here's the thing, on Saturday night, I finished recording and I went back and I was actually double checking as I was going on to make certain that is my microphone unmuted? Yeah, it is. I was checking those things. Was it a clean recording? Does it go all the way through to the end? Are there any burps or anything like that that happened? And I checked it. I've got a list in was it VLC Media Player? Is that right? VLC? Yeah, VLC Media Player. I've got that backlog of videos that open file play most recent, whatever it is. I've got that. The log is still there. So I'd seen them. I knew they'd been recorded. I thought, okay, they're safe. I came in on Sunday, early Sunday afternoon after I got back from work, and I did the New Zealand thing that you've just seen. And then, what was it? I was like, okay, so Sunday I'm going to start editing. And all the files are gone. And I did the recording with that white colored long sleeve shirt. That's the only file that survived. The very first file out of 16 video files that recorded. 4 hours I was in front of the camera. 4 hours. I was going to break it up into multiple segments, whatever, because I knew it was like, considering what I was unboxing, like, yeah, it's, combiners, spoiler alert, combiners usually take a longer amount of time for me to unbox. And considering the scale of the thing and all that stuff, like, okay, so it's going to take me longer. It's going to be broken up into multiple videos, whatever. But the files disappeared. And then when I go back to the open recent file thing in VLC and even in what is this Power Director 14, or is it 16? Anyways, when I opened up the files in Power Director, it says Open Recent, and there they are. They're listed there. But when I click on one of them, it says File cannot be found. What the fuck? And I couldn't record it yesterday because I had relatives who, believe it or not, my immediate family, we're kind of the only ones of the family that are out here in the Pacific Northwest. Most of the rest of them are in the Middle West or Midwest, So I haven't seen these relatives for 10 years. So we went to Leavenworth yesterday, which is up in the Cascade Mountains east of where I live. About 3 hours east of where I live. It's up in Stevens Pass. I haven't been in I haven't been in Leavenworth since 2000, maybe, and that was so that was the last time I was there, and even then it wasn't for very long. So I had, so I was gone all day yesterday on Monday. I couldn't do it. And I was way too exhausted to be able to do anything, any recording last night. I wasn't going to do that. So here it is, Tuesday. It's been Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's been 3 days since I unboxed this thing. And the files are gone, and I'm just sick about it because my reactions, my genuine reactions, spoiler alert, I was enamored. Enamored? I was enthusiastic through the whole thing. I just and I'll admit I was giddy as a schoolboy, which is saying something when a modern day transformable combiner or whatever can make me joyful like that. Yeah, it may have been overreaction. A little bit of it was sure, but I mean, when you're first experiencing something and you're getting into it that much, you don't really give a shit about the camera. And it had nothing to do with overreacting. So I don't even want to hear comments about overreacting. That includes you, Prime 92. Don't you dare. So yeah, I the files are gone. 4 hours, 16 files, and just poof, gone. Except for that intro. That's the thing that makes me sick the most. It's like the intro survived. So I'm recording to a different folder, and I actually, I mean, I can record it and save files. Just what the fuck happened to them? I'm sick about it. I'm sick. There have been times where I did unboxes, like, okay, I wasn't the content, not the context, but the like how I was reacting to things. Something like it's kind of over the top, but like, so okay, I'll just do an overview of what I just unboxed rather than an actual unboxing. So I've done that before. Okay, whatever. But this is, I'm being forced to do an overview to replace something that was lost, and I have no idea where it went off to. So fuck me. You know what I think it was? I think I jinxed myself. In the very, very last section that I recorded, where I held the thing up and I said, oh, I fucking love this thing, and I'm writing on such a high, I said on camera, and this is probably my mistake, I said that I hope nothing bad happens in the next few days because, I'd finally gotten to a good place. It was like, okay, I want to get to this. 9 months. It took me because it took me 9 months to get to the point where I'd be like, okay, I need to unbox this and I want to unbox this, and oh god, I'm on such a high. I really hope something goes wrong. Bam! The video files were gone by morning. I fucking jinxed myself. So I'm sorry. The original reactions are gone. Makes me sick. And actually, I can't remember the names of all these things. To be fair, it's all in Japanese, whatever. So, I've got the instruction booklet right here. So I'm gonna have to. Not that I don't know how to transform it at this point. I'm actually really good at picking that up. Um, Although Gowarinos was really really difficult. I had to pull the instructions out for Gowarinos like 5 times after I'd initially gotten it years ago. I had to pull the instructions out 5 times, and I haven't played around with it for several years now. So I might have to pull them out again. Just like, how the hell does Gowarinos change around? So it's not like that hasn't happened before. Although, what was he called? That knockoff evasion mode Optimus Prime. I can't think of what it is. I might have to pull the instructions out for that again because he's been sitting there for almost 2 year and a half, 2 years at this point. It's like I might have to pull the instructions out for that one again. So, so welcome to the unboxing video. Okay, so moving on to the overview rather than the unboxing that originally was 3 days ago. I assume that all of you at this point have now seen those 2 videos that I linked below. You watched them in the order that I listed them in. You're probably saying to yourself, "What the fuck is happening? What is happening here? What is this anime? What is this? What is this cartoon? What is this thing about?" It's not an anime. It's not a manga. It's a commercial for toys. Well, let me back up a little. It's more for adult collector toys. We'll put it that way. So I guess they'd be collector's items, collector's toys, something along those lines. Collector quality toys, I'll say. Um, so as a quick summary, in case you don't know what Diaclone is is the immediate predecessor to what would eventually become known as the Transformers. Hasbro came up with the idea of Transformers, but they used a lot of Takara's, not Tomy, because Takara had not purchased Tomy at that point, but they used a lot of Takara's car robots and I don't know, dinosaur robots or whatever they were. They basically took a bunch of different Japanese robot toys or toy robots that came out in the early 80s. And they repainted the vast majority of them. They changed the head sculpts on a couple of them, and it became known as the Transformers. Well, after the Transformers took off like a rocket, both in the West and in Japan, and also in China, because bootlegs and knockoffs. So what happened to Diaclone? Well, Diaclone kind of continued on as its own, as a separate entity. So Transformers took off, and Diaclone just kind of kept on going, kept on going, kept on going. And the name Diaclone actually got changed to other things that I'm totally blanking on, even 3 days later. It changed into different things, and then eventually what originally was known as Diaclone, because it had so much die-cast metal, just in case you're wondering. Eventually that faded away, and its successors eventually faded away and disappeared, and nothing's been heard from since. Well, some genius over at Takara Tomy in like 2015, 2016 said, hey, it might be a great idea to, since Transformers Masterpiece is a thing nowadays, why don't we try to do something similar with the predecessors to Transformer, the ancestors to Transformers, and that is Diaclone. Well, if you look at some of the original pictures for those Diaclone figures seen in, which way am I supposed to look? Because I have to flip the picture, so I can't remember. I can never remember which way I'm supposed to look. Do I look that way? I think I look that way. Yeah. So if you look at the pictures over here, I'm probably pointing in the wrong direction. So if you look over here, you will see the original or a sampling of pictures from Diaclone that I'm posting. And they definitely show their age. Now, if I were 4, 5, 6 years old, I'd probably be like, Cocoa for Cocoa Pops, So it'd be that kind of thing. But they're dated. They're really, really dated, and they're probably not as memorable nowadays compared to Transformers or even, was it Microman? Was Microman the successor to Diaclone? I think something along those lines. In any event, those Diaclone, the then modern Diaclone toys were just, they're really dated nowadays. So some genius over at Takara Tomy said, instead of just reissuing, or maybe they don't even have the molds, let's just take those original designs and modernize them. So essentially, Diaclone Reboot is Transformers classics. We're going to take the old designs, we're just going to modernize them. And yeah, we'll have homages. There'll be like little visual cues, or maybe this particular vehicle will recreate this, but it's going to be much, much, much more involved. It's going to be much, much more complex. And oh, by the way, no kids nowadays are probably going to recognize the Diaclone branding. So we will market this, we will produce this as a collector's item, thus Diaclone Reboot. Do they actually use the word reboot in Japan? I'm not certain, but that's what it's being called over here. So the Diaclone Reboot showed up. And it's stunning, some of the things that have come out. There were 2 robots that were initially released. There was Dia-Battles, and and both of the robots that appear, there are only 2 robos that appear in both of those commercials. There's only 2. There's Dia-Battles, and then there's Big Powered. Actually, it's called Big Powered GV. So there were only 2 versions released, but then they released not only repaints, which did not exist in the original versions, in the original Diaclone, they released repainted and slightly retooled versions of the Diaclone Reboot stuff. Well, if you look at the second video, if you were paying attention closely in the second video, there's actually 2 different versions of the Big Powered GV that appears. The first video had Big Powered GV all by itself. The second video actually featured 2 different versions. Now, these robos can combine in a ton of different ways, which I'll be going over here soon. So they can go over a bunch of different, they can combine in a bunch of different ways. But Big Power GV actually has two variants to it. The first one is the kind of navy blue, red, orange, and silver version that you saw in the video. And then the other version is one that appears for not quite as long. It doesn't appear in the first video, but it does appear in the second video. It's called the Big Power GV I.M.S version, which stands for Independent Mobility Squad version. Why am I looking down? That totally gives it away. I picked up the darker colored version because the first time I saw the Diaclone reboot commercials, I was like, I really like that Big Power GV. It's like a big blocky motherfucker, and I really enjoyed it. But the orange and the red are just kind of bugging me. And I think it was Maxilla96 who was showing them to me. He said, Ava, there's these repaints that they've got, and one of them actually fits exactly what you were looking for. So 9 months ago, I picked up the I.M.S version, and I unboxed it on. Oh right, unboxing. And I unboxed it on Saturday, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. This is a genre of robo that I don't get to see that I don't get exposed to very often. Um, and then there's some stuff on the bottom and the original Diaclone logo on the top. And this is just an example of how frickin' busy this thing is going to be. What are the main differences between Big Power GV and Big Power GV I.M.S version? It's fairly simple. It's a straightforward repaint that I'm aware of. The only difference is the regular Big Power GV has Dragon Zord type fingers. They're straight and they only bend at one knuckle. So it has individual fingers, but they can only do this. And then it also has a thumb that does the same thing. But the moment you can see it in the second video where the Big Power GV I.M.S will actually reach back and it punches into that alien ship. They're called the enemy are called Waruder, by the way, which also goes back to the original line. So you see that Big Power, he reaches back and he crunk. That's the I.M.S version that I've got, and the main difference is, aside from a complete repaint, it has articulating fingers. It has an actual hand in it. So rather than those cannon barrels, like a battleship or a turret of some kind, instead it has fingers that actually curl around. As far as I'm aware, that's the only difference. It's they had to remold the hands, so they had to make a completely new set of hands, and then they repainted the whole thing. So, yeah, there's both paint changes and plastic color changes. So it is. So when I say repaint, it's not just the colors of paints; it's also the colors of plastic. So um, I should point out. I'm going to do it now, so I don't forget about it later. I should point out that the Big Power GV actually got a second repaint. I almost said reboot, which is wrong. It got a second repaint, which is called the Big Power GV Destroyer version. It's basically a weapon upgrade version. I think it still has the fingers on it, but the hip engines have been replaced with missile launchers, non-functional missile launchers that can fold outwards a little bit more. And then the shoulder engine intakes, and you'll see what I mean later on as I go through these. The shoulder engine intakes on the final Robo have been replaced with air intakes, and now there's a pair of turrets that can swivel, and the cannons can point up and down. In addition, oh yeah, I guess it would have fingers. The crane arms on the front of the shins, those have also been replaced with much larger claw fingers. So those are much more meaty looking things, not meteor, but meaty looking things. And then the reason it kept the hands is because it can wield a pair of pistols, or I don't know, small rifles, or whatever you want to call it. So the Big Power GV Destroyer version is the second repaint that has come out, and I want to say it's available right now. By the way, I should point out a quick aside. I purchased this from Big Bed Toy Store. So I got it from BigBedToyStore.com. No affiliation. Just know that I got it from them. And be aware the I.M.S version that I'm about to overview here is already sold out. Okay, as is the original version too. or the first wave, big power GV. So both of those have been sold out. The only one that's currently available is I'm sorry, not is the big power GV destroyer version that I just now described. So be aware that that's the current version. So you should be aware that the Dia-Nauts, which are the armored humans, are only about that big. They're really, really tiny. And they have little ball joints, and they have elbows, and they have knees, and they have ball jointed hips, and they also have an ab crunch. I couldn't believe it. Like how could a figure that big? It doesn't have a waist swivel. Instead, it has an ab crunch, but it doesn't have a neck. Like, wow, it's got an ab crunch. That's amazing. And it turns out that the individual seats that appear in the cockpits, in the one, two, three, four, five, six cockpits, they all come with a seat where the pilot's actually reclining back, and then their legs are sticking out in front of them. So like, whoa, that is neat. That's incredible for something that small. The other thing I should point out is that one, two, three of these vehicles come with a. Why did I not think about that? Three of the vehicles, you have to attach little magnets. They're little flexible magnets. I'm not going to do it for two reasons. One, magnets. Whoa, which very much reminds me of Starcom. Holy shit. God, I'm a Starcom. I got a couple of Starcom figures or play sets and figures, but nowhere near the whole set of them. So, unfortunately, because Starcom is collector grade, they're really expensive in the aftermarket. So, but anyways, the Dia-Nauts are so tiny, and it's not that the cockpits aren't sealed so they like slip through the footrests or whatever it is, but just I'm not going to bother pulling them out. I'm not even going to bother. So be aware the I.M.S version comes with three Dia-Nauts. They have the tiniest little slivers of metal on the bottom of their feet, and the metal is for the flexible adhesive magnets that you can attach. So I'm keeping the Dia-Nauts in the box, and I'm not going to be attaching the magnets. The next generation of collector will be able to play around with those when I eventually get rid of these in some fashion or other. That's the second time I've said that. Ava, you are a depressing individual. Yeah, well, saw my niece yesterday, so saw my niece again yesterday, so and she slept and she's so cute. Okay, so the closest scalable figure I can come up with is the powered suit E-type, which the original. I'm not going to say this too much because I don't know the original Big Powered very well, but the original Big Powered from the 1980s also came with a little miniature figure that you could place a Dia-Naut inside of. So this is very much carrying over. The color scheme is not the same though. I looked at a picture just before I started filming, and the original powered suit was die-cast metal, was silvered die-cast metal. What else is die-cast metal but silvered? Was die-cast metal and red plastic. But anyways, the powered suit E-type is very tiny. Why is my hand shaking? I just had breakfast. Hello, essential tremor. Yay. So that is the powered suit. Powered suit E-type. I can never remember the E-type. The shoulders actually can fold forward, so you actually can get them to cross. You can get it to cross its arms. I should point out the Diaclone Reboot doesn't have any dedicated characters or specific characters. It's all nameless, faceless characters. And you can open up the cockpit, and it comes with a little foot, not a footrest, but a little foot guard. And you can fold that up, that panel right there, and then you fold it down and click. And for some strange reason, he has boob thrusters on the front, but he has no engines on the back whatsoever. Strange choice. And I should point out it has swiveling wrists as well. Not that this comes with any weapons. This is the basis of the rest of the Diaclone Reboot line, because there's a bunch of remolds and repaints of this. And they come with a bunch of weapons and other accessories you can clip onto them, because the thing is covered in ports and posts and things like that. You can plug other things into it. There's even little tabs along the inner side of the ankles, of the heels. So, and then the other thing it can do, again, just because there's so many accessories and I don't know all of them, and this set doesn't come with them, it comes just with the powered suit, and that's it. So as a result of this, you can also take the hips and you can slide them upwards, and that's for a storage mode that you get when you can get these little not even 2-inch square container carriers or carrier containers that you can store these things in, and all the accessories from the individual sets. My nose is itchy again. Why? And you should be able to attach this. This, unlike the Dia-Nauts, this does not come with any metal along the feet or anything like that. It might. There's like some pins that go through joints, but that doesn't really count. So this only gets pegged into position because there's a couple of pegs or peg holes in the bottom of the feet. Let's see. There we go. You can see the holes right there. So that's it. But pretty much for all the combinations it gets in, or for all the different ways it gets used in here, you're basically going to put it into its storage form. So it doesn't really do anything here. It's not meant to. I mean, this is only here because the original big powered from the 1980s had a figure that went along with it. So, but it's incredible how posable this thing is. And keep in mind, I don't collect action figures, not unless they're included like this. Oh, it also has a double ankle joint. How freaky is that? A double elbow joint and double ankle joint, double ankle joints. It's pretty awesome. And then you can take a Dia-Naut, and this tells you how small it is. A Dia-Naut, which is actually almost as tall as this, can fit inside there. So it's very very impressive. But again, I'm terrified of losing the Dia-Nauts, so they're going to stay in the thing. So anyways, there's the powered suit E type. So next up we have the powered vehicle number 1, or just powered vehicle 01 or whatever it is, which is kind of sort of the command vehicle of all of them. It's a ridiculous looking tank of a thing with lots of guns. It's got two like beam machine cannons, whatever it is, and it's got a pair of laser pistol thingies up here. And then it's got a little fold away. You can actually open up the cockpit. You can actually open up, yeah, sure. You can open up the cockpit and you can store the antenna away inside for convenience. There actually are a couple of cases where the way this thing combines, it's a good thing to fold away the little antenna thing. So this is powered vehicle number 1. It is quite beastly. Because of the location of where the beam cannons are, no, you cannot fold these up and down. It can move. They can move, just not in this particular mode. However, you can make the cockpit go down like this, and then if you're really careful, if there was one complaint that I had about this entire set, it would be that getting this command vehicle out of here. I don't know what it's called. It would be being able to get this command vehicle out of here is kind of a pain in the ass. Like you want to reach underneath and pull from the center, but there's this little peg there's this little peg that holds it in place, and I'm terrified that peg is eventually going to pop, and that peg is the only way to hold it in place. So if I had one complaint about this command vehicle, it would be the ability to remove it. Let's see, I'm going to highlight the peg. The peg that it plugs into is right there. But this bar here, let's see, this bar right here does not, it goes right through the middle of the chassis on the bottom. So you can't grab it from the center. You cannot pull equally from the top and the bottom. You can't pull it out. So it's kind of difficult to get this thing out of here. I mean, it fits snugly enough. That's all well and good. But when it's held on just by that tiny little peg, and that's the only thing holding it in place, and you really got to... The thing is, it fits in there so well that you can't twist it in order to pull it out. So if I had one major complaint about this whole thing, it would be that right there. So anyways, there's this controlless vehicle. And you can spread the wheels back, and then you get this little command vehicle, which has several mounting points on it, including 3 holes on the back. You can mount this in a bunch of different locations. So one thing you can do with powered vehicle number one is you can open up this door in the back. It reveals a little seat. I say little. The seat's probably 7 feet tall, whatever. And then you can, nope, you're going to do it this way so you have better lighting. You're going to take the, whatchamacallit, you're going to take the powered suit and you're going to carefully slip it in there. It does not peg into position. It just slips in, fits with friction. And then as you close the door, you'll see that the suit actually slides backwards. So there's a little storage compartment right there, which is identical to how it worked on the original Big Powered as well. The powered suit would actually fit inside the chest of the final combined robo. So spoiler alert, this is the torso. So yes, there's that. You can also take the powered suit and you can plug it into that exact same peg. So you can have the powered suit controlling powered vehicle number one. Or you can take one of the larger and more boxy control centers, whatever it is. You could peg it into the exact same peg at the top right there. So you can get a completely different look out of it if you want to. And then again, you can slide the cockpit down if you so desire. Next up, we have a single seat cockpit, which is basically a little wedge of goodness. Has 2 pegs on the back and a connection point on the bottom as well. But what's really cool about this one is the panels on either side can be opened up to form a pair of wings, which is sweet. So it's actually an escape vehicle in addition to being a cockpit. Ironically, for all the combinations it gets used in, you actually keep the wings folded up, which is kind of a good thing, you know? I mean, it's not like the core fighter on the original Gundam had its wings exposed when it was combined as the Gundam. So anyways, we're going to take care of this, or we're going to attach it to this accessory thing, which is just a hot load of nothing. This is combiner kibble, by the way. That's what this is. But that being said, it's fairly awesome combiner kibble. It doesn't move. It's molded in several parts. It's got a whole bunch of holes on that side, and it's got a couple of pegs on that side. And it looks really, really nice. It's got paint on it, and it's got alternate colored pieces of plastic right there. So that's pretty neat. So when you take the wedge-shaped cockpit and attach it to the kibble, I don't know if the kibble has a name because not everything here has a name attached to it in English, I should point out. You get what is known as the Bullet Fighter, which is a great sounding name. The only other accessory that I've placed back into the box because it's so tiny is a little landing skid that fits into this hole on the other side right there. Right there. The landing skid only gets used for this when it gets turned into what's it called, powered vehicle number 2. Because you can see there's a pair of pegs here on the engine pylons, but there isn't anything in the center, so you would peg the landing skid in there. I put the landing skid back in the box. I don't need it. So let the thing nose down on the ground if you so wish, whatever. That's not going to bother me. But anyways, yeah, this is the Bullet Fighter, which probably gets its name from something that looked completely different from this in the original version, I should point out. And so we're going to take these 2 massive engine pods, which have a very generous pair of turrets on the top, posable turrets. So you can point the turret that way. You can point the turret that way. You can point it up. If you so desire, you point it forward. And there you have powered vehicle number 2. Is that right? Number 2? Yeah, this is powered vehicle number 2. And no, those are not hands that are very obviously sitting on the top. No, those are not hands. Shut up. For the I.M.S version, the repaint right here, yeah, they're hands. So those hands are the only change that was made to the big powered GV. So as they swapped out the hands for the I.M.S version. And it's just a massive pair of engines. Very much reminds me of this one specifically reminds me a lot, and I mean a lot. And look at the engine exhaust detail, which is totally pixelated, I know, but like, I have to wonder if the original Big Power GV had, or if the Big Power GV, the reboot version, had die-cast metal for that part, and also for these engine intakes. The Destroyer version that I was just describing a little bit ago, these engine intakes have been replaced with turrets, because these, spoiler alert, these are the tops of the shoulders right here, the top of the arms right here. So these would not be engine intakes on the destroyer version. They would actually be additional turrets, the new turrets that they added to the top of this. So that's the only variation there. The paint on these is so good that when I first got it out of the box and I felt the weight of the thing, I thought that initially they were, I thought it was die-cast metal. These engine intakes are painted so well that I thought they were die-cast metal. Turns out they're not. And no, they are not chrome either. They actually painted. So, wow, it's amazing that they painted these things so well that they look like die-cast metal, even though they're not. Very impressive to Tomy. Very impressive. And anyways, as I was about to say, this vehicle in particular reminds me a lot of one of the Stratoforce Megazords, Subzords, whatever they were called. I don't remember. I think it's just Stratozord 1, Stratozord 2, on and on and on. Anyways, this reminds me of one of those. I've got the Stratoforce Megazord. For those of you who watched the original Japanese version in Gingaman, this would be one of the Giga Wings. That's what this reminds me of. I'm not saying it was inspired by it. I'm just saying it reminds me of it. Because Gingaman came out like 10 years after the original thing did. So yes, there is powered vehicle number 2. Okay, so moving on to our first combined form. We're going to be using powered vehicle 1, powered vehicle number 2. Going to peg one on top of the other, like this. This next stage is a little difficult to do, but it is part of the gimmick, and this is also something that the original Diaclone version, I should really stop talking about that because I don't know them that well. Anyways, no, the original could not do this. So anyways, what you're going to do is there's a track running along the side of powered number 1. So you're just going to take this arm, or engine pod, and you're going to slide it down. Because you've got two different pieces of plastic which may not be perfectly aligned with each other, there may be some resistance. So even though it's very much designed to do this, I'd recommend that you just take the engine pods off of powered vehicle 2 and then just set them on here and call it good. And then we're going to take the bullet fighter, which again is its own vehicle as well, put that to the side. I'm going to turn the side torsos, I guess. And come on. Come on. Okay, there's one. We're going to take these side torsos, which are separate from the side torsos of these tractor treads, because you see the tractor treads are going to stay in place, but these, come on, to be fair, this is pretty damn impressive what they did. And we're going to shift. You're going to see this part here moves, but this part does not move here. You're going to see shifts independently. Turn the arms down by rotating them at the, spoiler alert, shoulder joint. Move up the beam cannons, beam Gatling cannons, whatever it is. And there you have sky-powered mode. And again, these are in the big powered GV, the non-repaint. These are supposed to be turrets. So it's going to look strange on the I.M.S. just to have very obvious hands sitting there, but trust me, they're supposed to be turrets. And actually the very fingertips do kind of imply like there's kind of beam cannons or something like that in there. They're just not as heavy because... So here's the powered mode, sky powered mode. Oh, I forgot to lift the little antenna. That's important. So I'll put up the antenna there. Now for variations, because most of these vehicles have a variation to them, you can peg... How does this work? I don't remember. I don't do this very much. Ah, yes, okay. So you can peg the bullet fighter into the top of the, well, what was originally the back of the treads. So one variation you have is you can attach the bullet fighter to the top of, what's this called? Sky powered? Again, I'm sorry, I haven't memorized the names. Yeah, this is sky powered. And the instructions really like to fold their ass over. So one variation is you can attach that to the top of the powered vehicle. Or the other alternative is to attach the bullet fighter to the top, but just remove the cockpit, just have it sit up there by itself. So that is a mode as well. And then you can also, if you so desire, slide the cockpit downwards so that it rides a lot lower. So that is the sky-powered mode. Very beefy looking vehicle, which does it so much better than Super Sentai these days, I'm just saying.